Welcome back to Cocktails and Classics. This week we watched From Russia with Love, the second, I believe, James Bond film.
That is correct, yeah.
Joining me this week we have Cameron and Zach. So it's a little light on the group here.
Half the people,
But-
double the content.
Get ready for a 2-hour-long episode, ladies and
Oh my
gents.
god. We're going to make an episode longer than the movie.
We're just going to watch the movie while we do the podcast.
So in honor of this week's movie, we're gonna do a classic cocktail, but it's not gonna be the one you're thinking.
Ooh.
So James Bond, he always goes for the martinis.
Shaken, not stirred.
But this week, for the theme of Russia in the movie, we went with the Moscow Mule. Though it is not Russian, it comes from a joint of Smirnoff, Jack Morgan, who is the owner of the Cock and Bull Bar in Hollywood, and a ginger beer producer. And then at the same time, Sophie Berezinski, who is a Russian immigrant, she just landed in the States, and her father was apparently a owner of a copper factory. And so the three got together and made a drink that would combine all three and boost their sales. In a sheer move of marketing genius, the three dreamed up the easy to drink and easy to make Moscow Mule, using all three underperforming products to make one that is now today, I think, iconic.
Yeah, they got so popular a few years ago that health officials were warning against drinking too many alcoholic beverages out of copper containers.
Yeah.
The copper itself would cause a health problem.
That's why most of the copper mugs you'll find in a store, not online, are actually just stainless steel with copper finish on the outside.
So to make this, you build it in the glass, so it's a really easy one. 2 ounces of vodka, 3/4 of an ounce of lime, and 4 ounces or to top ginger beer. Serve over ice. For me, this is a favorite. I love this thing. This is one of my go-tos at a bar.
Yeah, this one's really great. Especially for me, I like the more sweeter ginger beers than the more than the ones that have more of a bite. So for me, I have the Trader Joe's ginger beer that's very sweet. But I like this drink a lot too. But I actually do it with the Kentucky variant and do a Kentucky Mule with whiskey.
Well, that doesn't play to the theme of the movie at all.
Well, I'm currently doing a Moscow Mule with vodka, okay? I'm keeping it thematic. I'm just saying in my normal repertoire, I normally go bourbon.
I mean, the movie doesn't take place in Russia anyways.
Yeah, but it's from Russia with love because
he's
James,
against
that's what
the
he
Russia.
signs the card from. That's what he signs the picture as. I felt like that meme. I pointed to the screen and I was like, that's the title of the movie.
Same. Yeah, I wrote that down. I was like, the movie title.
They said
Yes.
the movie. They said the thing.
This week we watched From Russia with Love, a 1963 James Bond film directed by Terrence Young, based off the books by Ian Fleming. A quick little plot summary is that James Bond willingly falls into an assassination plot involving a naive Russian beauty in order to retrieve a Soviet encryption device that was stolen by Spectre. It was nominated for Best Song at the Golden Globes in 1965, and it won a BAFTA award for Best British Cinematography in 1964. Stars Sean Connery as James Bond. Cameron, what were your thoughts to From Russia with Love?
So yeah, full disclosure. So I haven't seen a ton of the older James Bond flicks, but I am a James Bond fan. I do like the franchise. I've seen all the Pierce Brosnan movies and a lot of the Daniel Craig ones. I've seen Dr. No. So this isn't my first James Bond movie that I've seen, but this is only probably my second or third one I've seen with Sean Connery as James Bond. So my initial impression was I thought it was pretty good. It was definitely a little cheesy, which I kind of expected going into it. It was definitely more of it definitely felt like an old action movie, more so than other ones. But it was also kind of funny too at the same time, tongue-in-cheek kind of humor at times too. I feel like it was very sometimes on the nose with the humor in it, but but no, I liked it. But again, I'm a fan of the franchise, so
Yeah, there was a lot of it. It kind of almost felt this must be where '90s movies, like action movies, got the one-liner thing from.
yeah.
Because every time like something is happening, James has to like give a little cheeky one-liner
Little quip.
catchphrase.
Yeah.
How are you liking her? From this angle, things are shaping up nicely.
Yeah, no,
You're like,
the
"Okay."
James Bond one-liners are fucking awesome. The other thing too, this is something that I so miss about James Bond movies. So if you're listening, directors of the new James Bond movies, hear me out, okay? Look, the gadgets are nowhere in the new movies. It's all action. Like I feel like the newer James Bond movies, you could just drop in like some random hero and some random like bad guy villain thing and it'd be very similar. Like they're good movies, I feel like, especially like Skyfall. Like it's a good movie, but it's not uniquely James Bond. And one of the things that makes this movie, I think, and others of this time more uniquely Bond is like, I mean, the gadgets, the actual like spy stuff, and I mean the bravado too, but that's a little that's one of the only things that I think like is kind of on the fence about these older movies.
Yeah, this for me is my second, I think, James Bond movie, like full viewing that I can remember. I think I've seen pieces or parts of some of the Pierce Brosnan ones, but Spectre was the first one that I've ever like seen all the way through.
Wow.
And then this will be my second.
I don't even think
familiar with
Spectre is the best Daniel Craig one. Although I don't know if I've seen
do
Spectre.
or don't.
Don't.
No,
I think Skyfall
I
is
think
the
people
best
say
one.
Yeah, Skyfall. I
Yeah.
think is everyone's.
So I've actually only seen the old ones.
Oh wow.
Not like I've seen all the Sean Connery ones. I've seen the Pierce Brosnan ones, and a couple others sprinkled throughout. But I haven't seen any of the Daniel Craig movies.
I've heard great things about Skyfall.
Yeah, I think I'm missing
Roger
out.
No,
Deakins shot it, so
it's a
gonna be
great
beautiful.
movie. Like thematically and like cinematography, plot, action. It's a great movie. But my only gripe is it doesn't it. In my opinion, they don't feel uniquely James Bond. I guess like they kind of took thematic elements of his style and his, I guess what you would call like swagger into the movie, but they don't. It's not as much of a like spy movie, if that makes sense.
I think this one is. Correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't seen Doctor No, but I think this was the first one that really had gadgets, right?
I don't remember. It's been a while since I've seen Doctor No. But this one had the gadgets. It had their, and again, this is a little bit dated, but I think this was the first one with their like opening scene with the credits with like the girls. Like for whatever reason, I don't think the new ones have them as much, or they're a lot different if they do. But they have like the opening scene with like girls doing random stuff throughout the whole entire like theme of the movie.
Yeah.
And this is I think the first one that does that.
The belly
While the
dancing,
like theme
Yeah.
song plays and everything.
Right.
literally projecting onto their bodies.
Oh, dude. Okay. Take it for what it's worth. Like James Bond is definitely a man's movie.
Yeah.
Like
for sure.
it clearly like sexualizes women to the point of like they're always the damsel in distress basically, but I think the credits were fucking gorgeous. Like the girls like belly dancing with that projection on there. Like that is like such a hot thing now to do like projection art
Oh yeah.
on like stuff for like music videos for like low budget stuff, but like to see it like done in the 60s or something, it
Yeah.
is very impressive for the time, and I think it does great. The theme song playing, and I think one of the most iconic things is just the little thing where he walks out
And
then
shoots.
It's like that really tight,
Yeah.
and
The
then,
down the
yeah,
barrel
shoots.
view.
Yeah. It's the
Yes,
aperture.
yes, the down the Gaspar knows love down the barrel view.
No, nope, not that. But no, yeah,
Sorry.
the aperture with him walking up to it, shooting it, and then the blood red dripping down, and the music. I love the theme. The theme of James. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's great.
Were there memorable scenes for anyone?
I mean, there's the final fight scene that's really cool. Something you always expect out of a James Bond movie that this one really delivers on, where it's the boat scene or James Bond's trying to get away on the boat.
yeah.
And then the immediately following that, the helicopter that's like trying to swoop in and like,
That was before.
oh, the helicopter comes first.
Yes, this yeah.
What
The-
was
the
their game
helicopter
plan?
Was fucking ridiculous. Yeah, like they tried to buzz him like fucking 15 times.
Did they
I'm
not
like,
know that
"Please,
like their
stop."
helicopter was not going to survive that if they hit him? Like, didn't the MythBusters do something where like you couldn't put a stamp on a helicopter blade? Aren't they like that sensitive?
I think that's
I don't
right.
know. But
I don't
like
know.
you're chucking grenades at him when he's in the freaking truck.
Right.
Just chuck grenades when he's on the ground. I'm sure some shrapnel will catch him. You have a rifle. Shoot at him. What are you doing?
Also, the truck stopped for a bit. Like you could have dropped
They're
one
like,
there.
oh, he stopped. It's okay. Maybe we got him. Let's go land. Circle back around, and you're like, oh shit, no, he's moving.
That's called quality plot armor.
Which James Bond has in plenty.
Oh, he's got a ton.
As Cam said, I feel like the stakes are never high in this movie. Like
I see.
he's
I
in
don't
that
know
one
about
shootout, but like
I mean, that's
about
true.
it.
But the Spectre is this like international crime syndicate or something like that.
And the guys in the boats shoot worse than the stormtroopers, dude.
That's true.
Also, they
That is
stop
true.
when the oil barrels fall out of the boat and are just spreading oil on top of the water. They're like, hey, slow down. Let's stop right in this puddle of oil.
Yeah, no, I although I will say that it is kind of the stakes are kind of dangerous. Like they're essentially like they're trying to get this, they're trying to get this encryption device from the Russians, but are basically pitting the British against the Russians in this like Cold War era type feud, essentially. And so I do feel like the stakes are a little high in that regard, just because it's kind of like if they find out, like if the Russians find out the British are behind this, like it could literally start like another war. And so there is that in that regard. But yeah, I do. But the action, like the scale is very small, I feel like, too, because it's more so like there's the one agent and he's really focused on, like James Bond is really focused on getting this Enigma machine back out of the hands of the Russians and into, British hands, basically. So, yeah.
I wrote down something that I loved that I don't really know if I've seen before is when they are on the boat, like the Spectre boat, and it's like number 1 and 3 and the chess
Yeah.
guy. The camera is like planted, so it's stationary, but whatever platform the actors are on is like tilting back and forth to give like a movement of the ship in water.
I did.
And I thought
that's
that looked
interesting.
fantastic.
Yeah, that's I actually did not notice that at all. That's interesting. Because like I kind of just took that for granted as they're on a boat, but I didn't even come to me that they. Well, I mean, and even if they were on a boat, they'd have to stabilize the camera somehow too. Like anyway, right?
Yeah.
So like, either way, like I still think that's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I would think if you were on, if they were out on an actual boat, that the camera would be moving with them, though, unless
right,
they're like
yeah.
trying to stabilize them, like the actors stabilizing
Right.
themselves. But I mean, I don't know. I didn't feel like there were too many like huge scenes in the movie. The shootout is like kind of big.
Yeah,
but, like,
I was gonna
Bond
say
is never
that.
at risk. Like Grant
Yeah.
is just saving his ass the whole time.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Actually, is I feel like there aren't a ton of scenes that stand out to me. That isn't to say that the movie is boring, but there weren't a. I feel like that wasn't a thing as much as it is now. Like I feel like back then with action movies, it was a little more campy, and there weren't as big like grand scenes that it kind of like culminates to. Like it does kind of culminate to the the scene with the boat. And then also the scene in the hotel near the end where Kleb tries and comes and kills James Bond. And what's her name? What's the
Tatiana Romanov.
Yeah, Romanoff like ends up killing her instead.
One that kind of surprised me was back to the boat when they're like, Kleb, your shit fucked up, bro. And then the chess master's like, yeah, it wasn't my plan. My plan was perfect. And then you see the henchman come in and he like gets the boot knife out, and you're like, oh shit, he's gonna get Kleb, and then he kicks the dude.
Yeah,
and I was
why
like, oh,
did
shit.
he kill? I'm still confused why he killed him. Why did he kill the? I mean, I guess he still needed Kleb to try and fulfill the mission because the girl is like Tatiana's still hers, but I don't know why he killed him. Maybe his motivation to Kleb, like, I'll do this to you if you don't get it right, you know? Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was confused by that.
Yeah, I guess so.
I wrote down, what is this, a casting couch? When Kleb is like interviewing Romanov, and she's like, "You've had 3 lovers."
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
well,
excuse me?
it's funny because in the script and in the movie, she even was like, why are you asking these personal questions?
She's like,
yeah.
"Would you make love with a man you're not married to,
God.
you're not engaged with?" What?
You can make up to $1,000 to $5,000 per day.
Also, she just shows up in Bond's bedroom, like,
How'd she get there?
all right, like, yeah, she just breaks in,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Okay, let's make love."
Yeah, okay, so here's another thing too is at least in the 90s Pierce Brosnan Bond movies, they at least build up like a tiny bit to them like getting together, you know? Like there's at least a small amount of build up that it's like, you know what? I'll buy it. It makes no sense, but I get it. Whatever. In this one, they don't even, and in older ones, they don't even try. They're just like, Bond sees an attractive lady, just goes right up to her and is like, starts, you know,
Gotta get after it.
he's famous, you know? They just let you do whatever you want.
We do not have much screen time for this. We have to get right to the action.
It is kind of weird. I feel like they should do some like build up or whatever. And it's a little creepy, but
It's just that high quality 1960s PG that this podcast is all about.
1960s
True.
PG.
This is now the second oldest movie we've done.
Yeah.
I think he sees her. Well, wait. I think he
sees
sees
her like
get
running
into
to
the
get into the bed.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like naked.
But it's weird. The implications that an international British spy would see some random person in their bedroom
After
be
checking
like-
for bugs and everything.
Yeah. After moving to a new room, after checking for bugs, she'd be like, yeah, hello. And he's like, oh, hey, you're here. Let's do some stuff.
And she also asks for him. Like, she's like a Russian diplomat, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I want to defact and bring a Lecter machine to Bond." And it's like, how do you know who Bond is?
Yeah. Well,
Like, number one.
they kind of say that. They kind of say
Yeah,
that in
they're
the
like,
beginning,
obviously
where
it's
they're
a
like,
trap.
It's obviously a trap,
Yeah.
but we have to figure it out. And then, yeah, and it's so weird because he's like, you know, even though I know this is a trap, I'm still gonna sleep with you.
Yeah, she could have
It's
easily
also-
just killed him.
How creepy is it that he checked for bugs, and he was like, I need a new room, and they were like, oh, I know what room you can go to, the bridal suite. The one that conveniently has a hollowed out wall that we can take videos of from the camera of the bed. It's like, that is fucking creepy. What
Which, by the
hell's
way,
going on?
you know that's not the first time they used that one-way
Yeah.
mirror, two-way mirror in that bridal
That's what I'm
suite.
saying.
Was there a most quotable line for you guys?
I mean, God, I need a list of all the one-liners in the movie.
I liked what was the line that they say back and forth when James Bond and like the other agents are trying to. It's pardon me, do you have a match? I use a lighter. Well, better still, until they go wrong. Exactly. It's like that code phrase that they use, that little fake conversation to identify each other. I thought that was neat. I liked whenever that happened.
It's not exactly a quote, but this is a recurring theme among the movies. But I love how like James Bond and Moneypenny, the receptionist, kind of like fake flirt back and forth like a lot.
The thing I didn't necessarily understand, so when they're like, "Oh, it's our honeymoon," blah blah blah, and then like James is like, "Oh, put on this dress," and then like spanks her or whatever, and she's like, "Oh, there's some English customs that will have to go out." I'm like, is that an English custom, like spanking your woman? Just,
Maybe that's where it came from.
I mean, I guess.
We'll need the Brits on the Brit listeners to call in. Let us know. Is that a thing that you started?
Spanking fannies.
Yeah, spanking fannies.
Fanny means something different in England, I think. By the way.
Well, was there a surprise or a holy shit moment?
Okay, I will say the only moment that I was like, I was surprised by was when they killed Kerim Bey. That was the only one where I was like, oh man, they killed my boy. No.
Yeah, when he
He was such a
started
good
saving
guy.
James Bond, that was like, oh wait, why is he doing
Yeah.
that? But yeah, not a ton of surprises in this one.
He needed him to execute his plan. He couldn't have him die in some gypsy camp.
Not necessarily a surprise, but I was just kind of like, oh shit, he's going to do it, is when he's like, oh, can I buy that cigarette off you? He's like, with what? And he's like, oh, the 50 sovereigns or whatever in my case. And then you're like, he's gonna tear gas his ass.
I love in the James Bond movies where it gets to the point where you can tell they're about to use the gadget. You know what I mean? They're about to use the thing. There are other ones too where they're kind of trick gadgets like that, where they're like, if you turn it sideways, it'll be fine, but if you don't, it'll explode in your face. Like there's another one later where this is a Pierce Brosnan one where there's a pen bomb, and if you click it 5 times, it explodes. And this dude is like sitting there like Ben, like clicking the thing like repeatedly, and it'll click like 3 times, and you see, and the shot pans back to Pierce Brosnan, James Bond, who's like kind of watching it. Then he clicks it a couple more times, and then nothing happens. And he clicks it like 5 times, like that you need to, and like things explode. Like I love when they're like about to use the gadgets and that kind of build up to it. It's a common theme. Okay, how weird was it that James Bond was like, these 2 ladies shouldn't be fighting, and he was like, okay, you can decide what happens to them.
Yeah, and then they both show up into his room.
They both show up into his room, and it's like, what?
Yeah, he's like, ooh, it's gonna be a hard choice. And then it cuts to like daytime, and he's just getting his arms massaged or something. You're just like,
yeah,
okay, all right, cool.
Yeah, it's super weird. I don't get that scene at all, especially because they're married. They're arguing over who's gonna marry a guy.
Yeah, it was like a fight to the death. Like one of them's
fight to the
gonna
death
walk
of
away
who's
from
gonna
this.
marry some important guy's son. And they're like,
Totally. And I was like, girl fight. This is so Bond. This is so sexist. Girl fight. Yeah.
yeah, that's the one thing I don't really appreciate about this movie, and a lot of the older ones is just, well, I mean, there's a lot of questionable moments at best, and at worst, like straight up misogyny. Today's episode is brought to you by Audible. Audible is the leading provider of spoken word entertainment and audiobooks, ranging from bestsellers to celebrity memoirs, news, business, and self-development. But essentially what it is every month you get 1 credit to pick any title, plus 2 Audible originals from their monthly selection. So, Dylan and Zach, what are your experiences with Audible?
So, working from home nowadays, I recently used Audible to rip through one of my favorite book series. It's always great to go back and revisit some of your favorites.
And since we've recently done From Russia with Love, you could check out some of Ian Fleming's books on Audible. They have Dan Stevens, Toby Stevens, Damian Lewis, many great narrators. Read through Diamonds Are Forever, From Russia with Love, Live and Let Die. So maybe you want to get into the James Bond novels as well as the movies.
To start your free 30-day trial, go to audibletrial.com/cocktailsandclassics, all lowercase. Again, that's audible.com/cocktails, A-N-D, classics. After your free trial is up, it costs $14.95 per month. However, there are no commitments, and if you can't decide what to listen to, that's okay. You can roll your credits over up to 1 year.
So this week's podcast is brought to you by Surfside Sips. They make high-impact glass straws. They're a family-owned company, and what's better than saving the turds, you know?
The turds.
The turds.
You know, I'm one of those people who hates using paper straws. Paper straws fucking
Paper straws suck.
I
They're
love
the worst
what
solution.
they do. I love that we're minimizing the use of plastic straws. I enjoy that. Paper straws suck ass.
They suck. They're the worst possible solution because turns out, guess what? Paper and water don't fucking mix, okay? I don't know who came up with it, but it doesn't work. Even though they put coating on it to try and help, it doesn't work. It just gets soggy and you end up throwing it away anyway, and that's just more waste. And so,
But you know what doesn't get soggy? Glass.
yeah.
Glass straws from Surfside Sips. And if you want to get some glass straws from Surfside Sips, you can use coupon code cocktails and classics spelled out. That's cocktails AND classics for 20% off your order.
And if you're looking for a business to support during this time, seems like a good idea.
A little bit of a tradition around here is Zach takes over and gives us a trivia quiz. So Zach, take it away.
I love when we have a pared down audience because Dylan might have a shot at winning today.
I do. I have a high probability of winning when there is only 2 people. So
Higher.
First question. How long did it take to film the fight sequence in the train car between James Bond and Donald Red Grant? Was it A, 3 hours, B, 3 days, or C, 3 weeks?
3 weeks. Jesus.
yeah, that's a long time. I couldn't imagine filming the same thing for 3 weeks. Oh man, the entire fight or just like that entire scene?
It's the fight scene between James Bond and Red. Would it help if I told you that they did not use doubles? They didn't use stunt doubles for that.
No.
No, but that is interesting. Means they were probably really tired. Like, all right, we got to pick up tomorrow. Especially with the I don't know. I feel like people back in the 60s like would just like smoke a cigarette and then go out and play tennis or whatever, you know what I mean? Like that's how the tennis players rolled. They like smoke a cigarette and then come onto the court and like just start, playing.
It's like John Daly golfing now.
Right. I feel like they're just like smoking and drinking all the time while they're doing their daily activities. So it's more like I feel like they'd get more tired out, if that makes sense. Like they're like, oh man, I've been smoking and drinking all day. And I've been now on this fight scene for like 2 hours. I got to go. We got to wrap this up for today.
Did you see the like warm up video for John Daly where he's literally smoking a cigarette, hitting his warm up shots?
Oh my God, that guy's pants.
It is crazy to me how the culture around sports has changed so much since like the 60s. Because I feel like it was taken way less seriously back then. Like they still like were serious and were like, in their profession. But I feel like they did not do like, I feel like there are people and athletes
They weren't like
freaks.
Tom Brady.
Yes.
They weren't like, I'm going to go to bed at 9. I never drink coffee. I never eat tomatoes.
I'm going to go in my hydration chamber or whatever bullshit Tom Brady sleeps in.
Well, also, your star quarterback back in like the late 60s was making like 35, 40 grand a year.
I guess I'm going to say 3 weeks. I'm going to go for the long boy.
I want to go for 3 weeks, but I don't know. That's such a long time. I'll say 3 days.
It was a very long time. It was 3 weeks to film that scene.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I feel like they moved slower back then, though, too. Like, it wasn't like today. Like, when you shoot a movie today, it's like, all right, we got to move on. We've got 10 scenes to do today. And you're like, but that's not possible. All right, whatever. We'll make it up later.
They were just ripping cigs and fighting,
I don't get how they did it because they cranked out these James Bond movies like every year in the 60s.
Well, the movie was only an hour and a half. But still, I do agree. I feel like back then in the 60s, and like there are literally 25 of these damn things. And 5 of them came out between like 2006 and the 25th one has not even come out yet. So they have 5 in 15 years. And then I think Pierce Brosnan did 4 from 94 to 2004 or something like that. So that's 4 in 10 years.
So then the other 15 were done.
Right. The other 15 were done between like 63 and 92 or something like that.
So it took, like every other year they were like spitting one out.
Yeah.
It was like Harry Potter films. They were just filming them back to back, or Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Well, those ones made more sense because that was one linear story. But yeah. No, yeah.
If we wait too long, Sean Connery might be in jail for his domestic.
Oh my God. I know this is an aside, but one of the nice things I liked about... Well, never mind. I'll talk about that later.
Alrighty, so Daniela Bianchi remains the youngest woman to play a Bond girl in the film franchise. How old was she when she filmed From Russia with Love?
No.
Was it A, 18, B, 21, or C, 24?
Youngest? I'm going to say 21. Well, but the drinking age was different back then.
Also not...
I just feel like you can't have a girl under the drinking age for a James Bond movie. But then again, back then it wasn't as hot. I don't know. Just because I feel like alcohol is
Keep in
not
mind
in
what
this one
country
as
they
much
filmed in.
actually.
No, I don't think he drinks at all.
He has something in the gypsy camp. They do have some. I don't know if it's alcohol,
yeah.
but they do have something.
They drink wine in on the Orient Express.
Oh, that too. So they do have alcohol, and it's not. He doesn't order his signature drink in this movie, though.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go 21.
I think I'll go for 18.
Well, you're wrong. It is 21. You guys are each tied at one point. If you haven't figured it out by now, I have this really weird fascination with inflation. So,
Oh God.
in the train scene, Bond offers Red 50 gold sovereigns on the train for a cigarette. Now, given that gold sovereigns at the time of filming were worth €1, how much would the sum of those 50 gold sovereigns be worth today? Is it A, $5,000? This is American dollars. B, $10,000.
So you have to translate from euros into dollars and inflate it, you fucker.
Or
What the
C,
hell?
$15,000.
So you said it's 50 gold sovereigns, and they were worth €1 at the time.
Yep.
Wait, all 50 worth, Jan?
No,
or
each one was worth one. A gold sovereign was worth €1. How much would 50 gold sovereigns be worth today in American dollars? If you want to give it to me in euros, like, I don't have that number, but if you're close, you're close. You guys have to have, like, inflation calculators on, like,
No.
your phones by now.
No. Okay, sorry. Can you repeat the answers again?
A, $5,000. B, $10,000. C, $15,000. Either way, isn't it kind of astounding?
Either way, it's amazing. And this is in US dollars, so this is, dude, I don't know. I so undersold that on the last one and still won somehow just due to the over-under type thing.
I don't know. I was thinking 5,000.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. I'll go 10,000 just because if it's 5,000 euros, it's about 10,000 American dollars, probably. Something like that. Well, not anymore. The rate's a lot closer now, but
Yeah.
still. I'll go 10.
Yeah, I'll go 5,000. I mean that's kind of crazy though to think like €50 and 63 is 50,000 or $5,000 now.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy to think of, but
Well, my favorite part of the trivia is when we go to the tiebreaker because it was $15,000.
Oh my God. That's crazy.
that's insane.
Yeah.
I wonder what it
that's-
is in euros.
Yeah, it's a lot. Alrighty, so the tiebreaker, again, similar format, closest without going over. How many James Bond movies did Sean Connery star in?
I have a guess.
I thought I knew it, and I was wrong. I was like, oh yeah, that'll be a great question, and then double-checked right before we started recording, and I was wrong.
All right, I have a number in my head. Man, I think it's got to be like 6. I can think of like 3 or 4 off the top of my head, but there's probably at least 2 more. So I'm going to say 6.
Just so the people at home know, Cam and I we show each other our answers just so it's not
Yeah.
like we're like screwing each other over here on the over under. I'm gonna
Don't
go
give me a
5.
giant dick hole and say 5.
I'm going 5.
It was random though.
I feel
was
like it
fair.
might be 6, honestly, though. Like 6 sounds like a nice number.
It
'Cause I
might
feel like he was
honestly even be
Bond
7.
forever.
He was
Especially
Bond
if you're
for a while.
like,
I do think Roger Moore was Bond for more movies, but Sean Connery was in a lot of them.
All right, Sean Connery was in Dr. No,
Yep.
1962, From Russia with Love, 1963, Goldfinger, 1964, Thunderball, 1965. Like, see, they're cranking these things out every year.
Right.
You Only Live Twice, 1967, and Diamonds Are Forever, 1971. So the one that I missed,
6.
he reprised his role as James Bond in Never Say Never Again in 1983. He took a 12-year gap from playing
Wow.
James Bond.
I forgot about that.
So
damn. Well, Cam still wins though.
Cam's got the dub.
So I did the dirty work of looking up a couple bad reviews around the internet, and I want to hear your thoughts on their thoughts. The first review comes from Joseph Ferran from April 19th, 2020, somewhat recently. Gave it 1 out of 5 stars. Says, so the whole premise of this movie is James Bond is supposed to get played, but he fucks so good he makes a fake double agent turn into an actual double agent and wins anyways.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly. No, you nailed
look,
it.
I know you're gonna read the review soon, but I do want to say that dude fucks. Like, yeah, that's part of the James Bond thing. You know, he has sex with a woman who's supposed to be against him, and she turns out to not be against him. He's got the magical peen. All right,
The
Anyway,
wiener is so good.
But like, let's be honest. If you had to listen to Sean Connery like talk at all in bed, I feel like you just go. I mean, they're females, so maybe they don't go flaccid, but like,
well,
No, I've heard they do. You got to pick one. Oh shit, who was I gonna say? Oh god, it's gonna be Sean Connery or Jeff Goldblum. You got to pick one to listen to.
oh, Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff
Oh, shit.
Goldblum, hands down.
Oh, so you like sexual intercourse?
So you're like a Russian spy. Oh my god. I mean, they straight up say in like the first 15 minutes, they're like, "Oh, it's a trap." Yeah, we know. Yeah, okay. So let's go into this. And then he still gets trapped. Like, like, all right, James, you're a little in over your head, I guess, because this guy can kill you in like, what is it, like 1.3 seconds or some shit.
Yeah, not very often they tell the main character the plot of the movie he's about to be in, and he still fucks it up.
The world's greatest spy. He's not that great.
We haven't even heard the review.
No, that was it.
That was
right?
it.
Wait,
Yes.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice and short and sweet, right to the point.
Well, if you want to hear a review, I have a 6 out of 10
Okay.
from IMDb.
Okay.
From Russia with Regrets.
Ooh, Raggarts.
From Stamper, November 16th, 2002. So an 18-year-old review almost. From Russia with Love equals up to most Bond films in the series, considering the quality of the story and its presentation. The excitement within the viewer fades, though, as the movie proceeds to its finale due to the lengthy and detailed depiction of the escape. Neither the actors nor the action sequence succeed in making up for that mistake made by the director, leaving this Bond film only a notch above mediocrity. 6 out of 10.
I mean, I don't know. I guess that's a little fair, but
Yeah,
I feel like that glazes over a lot of the movie by just like talking about the end of it, though.
Yeah, in the simplistic sense, it has a lot of honesty to it. I feel like the parts with Kerim Bey took so long. Like we go to this gypsy camp and we have a shootout and we do this, and then like to get to the actual plot and like here's Spectre and this freaking spy we've had, an hour and a half of building up, and then he just gets tear gassed and beat to death. Like
Yeah.
all right, well.
Yeah, Kerim Bey has such an unceremonious like death too.
Yeah, he just like comes back and he's like, "Oh, Mr. Bond," or whatever his fake American name is, whatever at that time. Or no,
Yeah.
they're British. They're from Yorkshire or something at that point. They're
Like
like,
your
"Oh,
friend's
Mr.
dead.
Yeah, they're like, "Mr. Dalton, your friend's dead." Oh,
And he
must have
dies
shot
off
each other.
screen. It's so lame. Because he was like almost a main character at the amount of screen time that dude had. Oh my god. That reminds me of the scene where he like shot that dude with the sniper as he's like escaping from that woman's mouth, and James Bond goes, "She should have kept her mouth like closed or something."
Oh, looking at the
What?
billboard was so creepy. Like, oh yeah, you see the model
Yeah.
up there. Is like, yep, she's got a really nice mouth, doesn't she? Like, I did not pick up that was where the guy was gonna crawl out of. I'm like, why is this dude just being a creep?
I get what this dude is saying a little bit, but I do think that it is kind of taking a lot, like, summing up the movie by its very end final moments is kind of disingenuous to me.
yeah. I think you could have pumped a little bit more action in there, a little bit more like something for like the first hour
Yeah.
to really like keep you like going. But I mean, the last half definitely picks up.
Yeah.
I mean, once we're on the train, it gets pretty action packed and it's pretty fun. Those of us who have seen it, Zach, wrote down our rating based off memory and nostalgia. And I want to know if your rating has changed or not. And Cam and I will give our first impressions.
So I've seen basically all of the old James Bond movies, and I don't know if I was confusing this one with a different movie or what, but I was going into it and I was super pumped because my wife had never seen it before. We sat down to watch From Russia with Love, and I was like, yeah, this is going to be awesome. I gave it like a 9 going in. I thought this was like an amazing movie. I don't know what happened. I don't know what I was remembering. There's so much goofiness. Kerim Bey's character, I just don't get it. It's like you have to know some piece of the movie going in to understand this one. Kerim Bey is almost set up to be like the bad guy when James Bond first shows up in Istanbul. And then he's a good guy, and then he's a corny good guy. There's a lot of this movie, like the plot points that could be cut out. The whole fighting at the gypsy camp. Other than like somebody trying to kill James Bond and Red stopping it, I don't get it. There's just a lot of this movie that could be cut. It's definitely not the best James Bond movie. Of the Sean Connery ones, I would say Thunderball is my favorite. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm gonna give this movie a 3. I did not think it was very good,
Wow, that's awful.
and I don't know if I'll watch it again.
This was my first time watching this movie, as I had previously said. And it's only my second James Bond movie. And to be honest, maybe I just don't understand it. Like, I don't know.
You just
It's
don't
obviously-
get it.
Yeah, like I don't think it's for me. Maybe the times have changed, but James Bond is just like a fucking dick. He still gets the woman. He beats them,
It's
and
a
then they're
magic
still
peen.
like cool. And it's
I
like,
forgot about that.
this is the hero. Like, this is the hero you're pushing towards me is a fucking womanizing abuser.
He did
I don't know.
attack her when he thought she was a spy, right?
Yeah, but like I agree. I feel like parts really lagged. Like it was kind of boring. Kerim Bey was. I thought he was the bad guy, like Zach said. Like I was kind of like, who's this guy? Oh, is he gonna be the dude that hooks him up with Tatiana? You know, all this stuff, and it's like, oh no, he's just some random dude. All
You
right.
were waiting for him to betray James Bond at some point.
Yeah,
Kerim Bey is loyal. He's smart. He's important. He's loyal.
but I don't know. Like it got better towards the end, and I think it's worth a watch. But as far as like a rating goes, I'm gonna give it a 3.5 out of 10.
So here, let's have a chat. So
Fireside chat with Uncle Cam.
fireside chat. Here we go. There are some problematic parts about this movie, but it's more emblematic about the role of James Bond in general. It's evolved over time. He is very womanizing in this movie, which is, in my opinion, one of the major faults of not only this movie, but of his character. It's definitely reminiscent of a more, like we've talked about earlier, it's kind of more like Mad Men-esque where, you know, it's more like this was an acceptable thing of the time, which nobody would want to do now, and it's certainly not good now. And I mean, it wasn't acceptable it was acceptable back then, but it was not, like, even judged by today's standards is not good. And so that part is not great. However, I do still like the character. In comparison to Dr. No and even the movie that came after this, Goldfinger, I feel like this movie ages actually better. So for those reasons, I still gave this movie a 7. I still liked it. I enjoyed it. Will I watch it again? I'm not sure. I still have like 15 Bond movies to watch for the first time. But I liked it. I thought it was pretty good.
If you enjoyed this, don't forget to rate and subscribe and check out our Instagram at Cocktails and Classics Pod. Use the hashtag Cocktails and Classics to send us your movie and drink recommendations. Check out some of the videos on there. We're starting to do some little recipes for the cocktails of the week, so check those out. Like them, share them. And share us with your friends. I'm sure they would love to hear our thoughts on From Russia with Love and tell us all about how we offended them. And as always, watch responsibly.